All right, let's jump right into this explainer and reframe pretty much everything you thought you knew about one of the most painfully infamous conditions known to humanity. If you've ever experienced gout yourself, or even just know someone who has, you've undoubtedly been told that uric acid is the ultimate enemy. It's painted as this toxic waste product that forms needle-like crystals in your joints, causing just unimaginable agony. But what if I told you that this so-called villain is actually one of your body's most desperate attempts to save your life and keep you young? Today, we're going to completely flip the script on uric acid.
To kick things off, we really need to grasp the sheer scale of this epidemic. I mean, right now, in Japan alone, an estimated 10 million people have dangerously high uric acid levels in their blood, a condition medically known as hyperuricemia. That is a staggering number of people walking around right now with these microscopic crystals just waiting to trigger a flare-up. But while the massive volume of cases today is totally alarming, the disease itself is anything but new.
In fact, this agony is incredibly ancient. We're talking recorded in Egyptian papyri ancient. Even Hippocrates, the famous father of medicine, documented it thousands of years ago, famously calling it a disease of wealthy, upper-class, middle-aged men. And honestly, he wasn't entirely wrong about those demographics. Today, we know that gout predominantly targets men, who make up a massive 97 to 98% of all cases, typically peaking right around the time they hit their 30s and beyond.
Section 1. The evolution of waste. To actually understand why humans end up with uric acid crystallizing in our joints, we have to rewind and look at how different species evolved to process protein waste. This waste initially starts out in the body as highly toxic ammonia. Now, if you just leave ammonia in the body, it destroys cells. It's literally lethal. But nature handles this super cleverly. Fish, for example, have it easy. They live in water, so they just flush that water-soluble ammonia straight out into the ocean where it disperses harmlessly. Land mammals, like dogs or us humans, obviously can't just leak ammonia all day long, so we evolved to convert it into urea, which has very low toxicity and can be safely stored in the bladder until it's time to go. But think about birds and reptiles for a second. If a migrating bird stored heavy, liquid waste in a bladder, it would be way too heavy to fly across oceans. And if a reptile laid an egg, liquid waste would just build up inside and drown the embryo. So they evolved to convert ammonia into a solid waste, uric acid. It requires absolutely zero heavy water to store. You know that white part of bird droppings? Yeah, that is solid uric acid. So right off the bat, we can see uric acid is a perfectly natural, essential biological waste product.
Section 2. The true source of purines. Okay, you've probably been warned a million times by doctors or friends to avoid purines if you want to dodge a gout attack. But let's be real. Most of us have absolutely no clue what a purine actually is. Purines aren't just some mysterious dietary villain hiding in our favorite foods. They are literally the fundamental building blocks of DNA. When you picture that iconic double helix of DNA, the rungs of that ladder are made of biological compounds called adenine and guanine. Those are purines. So when your body digests these DNA building blocks, the leftover waste is uric acid. This means purines are the essence of life itself, completely woven into the cells of the food we eat every single day.
And that brings us to a really fascinating biological math problem. If purines are inside DNA and DNA is inside a cell, well, it stands to reason that the more cells a food has, the more purines it contains. Consider the sheer scale here. A giant ostrich egg is technically just one single cell holding one single life. Therefore, it basically has roughly one purine unit. But what if you eat salmon roe or ikra? You might swallow 5,000 tiny eggs in a bite. That's 5,000 individual cells, meaning 5,000 purines. And cod roe or taraco, those eggs are practically microscopic. A single serving could have 500,000 cells. That packs a massive purine punch that your body is suddenly forced to break down into uric acid. So this simple rule of cell density perfectly explains the most surprising high purine foods out there. Liver is an incredibly dense organ made of tightly packed cells. So boom, it's a purine bomb. Fish milt, or Scirocco, is packed with millions of microscopic sperm cells, another absolute purine bomb. And what about beer? Why on earth is beer so much worse for gout than other alcohol? Because beer contains malt. Malt is a sprouting seed, absolutely packed with actively dividing cells and the biological essence of life. Because of that, beer contains 500 times more purines than distilled spirits like shochu. And even fish like bonito are super rich in inosinic acid, a compound that breaks down directly into uric acid.
Section 3. The ATP energy trap. All right, here is where it gets really interesting, because food is actually only half the story. Your daily lifestyle, how you move, and exactly how you burn energy actually triggers uric acid production directly inside your own body, even if you eat a flawlessly perfect diet. See, our bodies run on a cellular energy currency called ATP. When you do intense, breathless, anaerobic exercise, like a 100-meter sprint or really heavy weightlifting, your body doesn't use oxygen. It inefficiently burns its energy currency, creating just 2 measly units of ATP energy, leaving behind a massive spike in lactic acid and rapidly breaking down that used ATP into purines, which become uric acid. However, when you do steady aerobic exercise, like a brisk, sustained walk where you're breathing deeply, your body efficiently uses oxygen to yield a massive 19 units of ATP energy. This doesn't cause that destructive breakdown, and it actually helps reduce your gout risk. And it's not just sprinting that triggers this trap. Slamming sweet juices packed with fructose or just living with high daily mental stress forces your liver and your cells to violently burn through those ATP stores. As those ATP molecules get destroyed, they leave behind a massive trail of internal purines, meaning your body is essentially metabolizing its own stress and sugar intake directly into uric acid.
Section 4. The Great Uric Acid Twist. So now we know exactly where uric acid comes from: our diet, our intense workouts, our stress. But this brings up a truly baffling question. If uric acid causes so much excruciating pain and literally crystallizes in our joints to torture us, why on earth does our body produce it and keep it around? Well, prepare yourself for a massive biological plot twist. Almost all other mammals on Earth have a specific enzyme that easily breaks uric acid down into harmless, water-soluble urea. But somewhere deep in our evolutionary history, humans lost that enzyme. We completely lost the ability to break it down. And it gets even crazier. When our kidneys filter uric acid out of our blood to excrete it in our urine, they intentionally reabsorb 90% of it right back into our bloodstream. Our bodies are actively, purposely hoarding it. But why?
To figure out why we hoard it, we first need to introduce the actual real villain of the human body: active oxygen, which is also known as oxidative stress. As we live, breathe, and deal with all our modern stressors, our body generates active oxygen. These are highly unstable molecules that literally rust our cells from the inside out. They damage our DNA, they accelerate our aging, they cause arteriosclerosis, and they can even lead to cancer. Basically, our bodies are locked in this constant, desperate battle against active oxygen every single day. And here is the crucial point, the big reveal. Humans intentionally hoard uric acid because it is an incredibly potent, life-saving antioxidant. In fact, it is an even more powerful antioxidant than vitamin C. Inside your blood right now, uric acid makes up roughly half of your body's entire defense system against active oxygen. Evolution actually favored humans with high uric acid levels because it protected our cells from rusting, shielded us from cancer, and significantly extended our lifespan. Without uric acid, we would all age incredibly rapidly and die much younger. It's not a poison, it's literally a shield.
Section 5. Gout as an alarm system.
Once you wrap your head around the fact that uric acid is actually a superhero desperately trying to save your cells from rusting, that agonizing gout attack takes on a completely different meaning. When gout strikes, it's not a disease maliciously attacking you out of nowhere. It is your body's check engine light turning on. It's a warning signal flashing bright red, telling you that your lifestyle is generating way too much oxidative stress. You're eating too many cell-dense foods, drinking too much fructose and beer, and living with way too much stress. Your body actually produced extra uric acid to try and protect you from all that damage, but the levels finally overflowed, they crystallized, and they triggered the alarm.
Which means the power to fix this is entirely in your hands. Instead of just relying on pills to artificially crush your uric acid levels, you can naturally lower the alarm by addressing the actual root causes. You can easily limit your intake of high-purine beers and sugary fructose drinks. You can swap out that intense, breathless weightlifting for steady, deep-breathing aerobic exercise. And you can actively manage your daily stress levels to stop your body from desperately burning through its ATP energy stores. So the next time you get a high uric acid reading at the doctor or feel that familiar, terrifying twinge in your toe, don't curse your body. Instead of hating it as some cartoon villain, recognize it for what it truly is: your body working overtime to keep you young. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other symptoms or diseases we fight every single day are actually just our biology's desperate attempts to save us from our own modern lifestyles? So the real question is, are you finally ready to listen to the alarm?